If you've watched any of my previous videos, you'll know that I'm partial to Zenithal priming. It's basically you spray paint your miniature black and then you dust it with white from the top, and you get this sort of nice grey shade going. And I've always been using, I haven't done that many miniatures. You'll know that my videos are about me doing things for the first time, learning. But I've been using Citadel Chaos Black and Citadel Corax White. And one of the issues I've had with the Zenithal priming is that I get these grains from the white spray paint. The miniature doesn't really end up all that smooth. I've been fine with that. The thing with the white paint is that the pigment itself, that the white paint is, it's in there, it's the white. The pigment, it's a large grained pigment. And then just recently, you probably have seen that Citadel has, Games Workshop, Citadel, has come out with a contrast range. I haven't tried the contrast paints. I have tried their contrast medium, just a little bit, trying it out, not any of the paints. But I've also bought the Grey Seer undercoat. For one reason being, if I want to try some contrast paints, then this is a good start. But I also wanted to try and see how this would work for Zenithal priming. Because from what I've understood, the contrast paints need to have a really, really smooth finish. And a pure white doesn't really give you that. So they've mixed in a bit of grey and maybe worked on their white pigment, I don't know. But it's supposed to be very fine. So I wanted to see what happens if I first prime a model with Chaos Black and then dust it with the Grey Seer and see how that, looks and how it works. So to compare this, I've got two small miniatures here. They look the same. Ghostly little buggers with axes. They're from the Night Haunt Horde thing. Let's have a look. What are these called? I'm sorry. I'm terrible with what everything's called. Chain Rasp Horde. Lots of these little ones. So these are ready to go. Ready to be first spray painted black and then dusted. So I'll do one with the Corax White and I'll do one with the Grey Seer. And then, we'll have a look what happens. I've even labeled them underneath here. You've got CW, Corax White, and GS, Grey Seer. Also, as a side note, you're wondering why they're green on the back. Basically, with all these Night Haunt, I had troubles with the mold, pressing the pieces together and getting a gap. And on the other ones, I've been filling out the gap and filing and stuff like that. These I couldn't really be bothered because there were so many of them. So I just used tons of glue and then they became shiny. And it was sort of, the wrong texture on the surface. So I just painted some liquid green stuff on there. And the bases, how I've been doing all my bases. There's a video for that if you want to see it. Yeah. So we're going to prime them first black, and then dust them with the white from above. I'll show you. So first off, we spray both of the miniatures with Chaos Black. And then the first one to go is the Corax White. And when Zenithal priming, I just keep the rattle can, 35, 40 centimeters from the miniature and spray it at like a 45-degree angle and a bit from up top. Trying to make sure not to do too little, because if the miniature is too dark, I find them difficult to paint. And then next up is the Grey Seer. Same thing here, trying to keep the can, you know, quite far away, and then dusting it. I mean, the thought here is that, you know, you want it to look like the light is coming from above, and everything that's in shade is in shade, and the sun's up in the zenith. They're of zenithal priming. The one on the left is the Grey Seer, and the one on the right is the Corax White. What I noticed is that the Grey Seer had, like, the flow from the can there was more coming out of there than from the other one. So this is not super scientific, but, you know, I mean, the Grey Seer looks a lot smoother, a lot less little dots. Comparing the axes, hands. I say the difference is pretty significant. Unpro tip from the pro tip from the unpro tip. Remember, when you use your sprays, when you're done with it, hold it upside down and clean out the paint. Just sticking it in there. Obviously, I should give these a paint and see how the difference is. You know, see what we can see when I've actually painted them. So I gave these two some paint just to see what the differences would be, if there would be any differences actually while painting. That is the difference between Grey Seer and Corax White for zenithal priming. And for me, the differences were quite substantial. The one on the left here is the Grey Seer. The one on the right is Corax White. Like, mainly, I found that the one painted with Grey Seer just had retained a lot more detail than the other one. It was easier to paint throughout. It was easier to dry brush. It was easier to pick out details. It was just a lot smoother with the wet blending. If we look at the finish, which is not something I thought would be a difference, but the finish on the Grey Seer is shinier than the one using Corax White. I guess that's because of the small particles that actually would make this one more matte and this one have a glossier finish. The coat, or the shroud, this stuff on the back, the brown. On the one on the right here you can see the small dots, whereas on this there's not much. On the Grey Seer there's not all that much dots going on. Same goes for the blue streaks back here. I hope you liked this video about my little test of zenithal priming with Grey Seer versus Corax White. Grey Seer versus Corax White. Citadel's paints. And you know, if you haven't got an airbrush and you're doing it with rattle cans like I am, then, you know, I would go with Grey Seer. I'm gonna go with Grey Seer. You're free to do what you want, but I found it quite beneficial for this zenithal priming. Please like, subscribe if you wish, but you know, leave comments, whatever. Not just to boost my ego, but just to spread the video more. YouTube realizes that we exist if you realize that we exist. So, you know, it's a coexistence going on here. Anyway, thanks for watching, and